The costs of health care are a pocketbook issue for most Americans, and rising drug prices a key part of that. People in the U.S. spend more on prescription drugs than in any other country, about $1,200 a year per person. Insurers and the government pay the largest share, but it is costing consumers more money in premiums and out-of-pocket. Anger has been building over affordability and specialty drugs that cost tens of thousands of dollars. That was the backdrop for a much-anticipated Senate hearing today involving the drug makers. John Yang has that report.
It has been decades since this many leaders of the top drug manufacturers have faced lawmakers under oath. Senators in both parties lashed out at their profit margins and pressed them to explain why drug prices keep rising.
All of you that are here today are here because the way you've been doing business is unacceptable.
Finance Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley set the tone, tearing into the executives of 7 pharmaceutical giants for shirking responsibility.
Another yes or no question. When your company prices its drugs, do you take into account the fact that a key player is the federal government? Let's start with AbbVie.
We evaluate all the channels when we make determinations on price and affordability.
So that obviously would include the federal government. AstraZeneca.
Yes, we do.
Okay, Bristol-Myers.
Yes, Senator.
Johnson & Johnson.
Yes.
Merck.
Yes.
Pfizer.
Absolutely.
And Sanofi.
Yes.
The executives all said they were willing to do more to make sure people could afford the drugs they need, but offered few details. They said middlemen were to blame and that developing new medicines requires billions of dollars in research.
Our company is dedicated to science and innovation, and in 2018 we invested nearly $6 billion in research and development.
We're proud to have deployed 70,000 doses of our experimental Ebola vaccine in the Congo.
We focus on discovering and developing transformational medicines for some of the world's most challenging diseases, including multiple myeloma, prostate cancer, HIV, schizophrenia, and Crohn's disease, among others. Janssen invested $8.4 billion in research and development last year in the search for medical breakthroughs.
Democrat Maria Cantwell of Washington State pressed the executives to acknowledge that the government could help bring prices down.
I'm asking a really basic question. Like the VA's ability to negotiate on drug prices, do you think that states having that same ability drives down price?
I would say that the VA would get a lower price and the states would get a lower price if you're willing to go into an environment where that could be imposed by states.
Or the federal government?
The hearing comes as President Trump targets drug costs. He's proposed ending Medicare and Medicaid rebates to middlemen and cutting the price Medicare pays for some drugs.
At long last, the drug companies in foreign countries will be held accountable for how they rigged the system against American consumers.
Today, senators threatened congressional action. Several zeroed in on Richard Gonzalez, CEO of AbbVie, the maker of Humira. It's the best-selling drug in the world used for rheumatoid arthritis and other diseases. Yearly sales, nearly $20 billion. Over the last 6 years, the drug's price has doubled to $38,000 a year. More than 100 AbbVie patents and deals with other drug makers mean that lower-priced competitors will not hit the U.S. market before 2023.
How many patents
I'm
do you have?
sorry, 136 patents.
136 patents on one drug.
But, well, remember, Humira is like 9 different drugs or 10 different drugs. So
I thought you said to Senator Stabenow it was the same molecule.
It is the same molecule, but it treats different conditions, and if you look at that patent portfolio...
So you use the same molecule to treat different conditions. You can get a patent on that, that treatment?
Certainly.
Mr. Chairman, I know this topic is the subject of, or within the jurisdiction of the Finance Committee, but those of us like you and me who are also on the Judiciary Committee that has jurisdiction over the patent system, I think this is an area that we need to look in through our Judiciary Committee authority.
Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, the panel's top Democrat, asked Gonzalez if his compensation, which was $22 million in 2017, is tied to Humira sales.
Would you make a smaller bonus if you dropped the price of Humira?
Humira was one element of a set of financial factors that were evaluated as part of my compensation. It's obviously a very significant product for us, so it's clear that it would be part of that evaluation.
I'd like that in writing within 10 days.
Some CEOs like Merck's Ken Frazier said they were willing to do things like eliminating discounts that help protect their market share. But overall, companies defended their practices.
No one company can unilaterally lower list prices without running into financial and operating disadvantages.
By the hearing's end, Wyden and other lawmakers said they were far from satisfied.
I've heard a lot of happy talk this morning.
Today's hearing featured more bipartisan criticism than in the past, but it's far from clear what action Congress will take as drug prices continue to rise. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm John Yang.